Hello everyone, it is Suki and tonight we're going to be talking about ranged DPS. Yes. So, I've been playing all three ranged DPS jobs pretty extensively this expansion so far. And yeah, I've been enjoying all three for different reasons. And yeah, I'm having a lot of fun on pretty much all three of them. It's really fun. I really like it. I really enjoy all three. And we're going to kind of just be giving my thoughts on the ranged DPS jobs and kind of where I think they stand and things I like, things that I'm not too fond of, and we'll kind of go from there. But yeah, if you're looking for the healer version of this sort of video, that should be coming out soon-ish. I want to get it out before job adjustments happen on Tuesday, so hopefully it should be tomorrow night at the latest. I still need to finish leveling Astrologian and get some more time with Astrologian, I guess, since I haven't had as much time to play that as I have with White Mage and Scholar. But ranged DPS today. So we're gonna start off with Bard because I feel like Bard is kind of it's the easiest one to tackle. A lot of it is just some changes to how Stormblood Bard was, whereas Machinist is practically a completely new job, and Dancer is a completely new job. So we're gonna start with Bard first. So the first major thing is that looking at the changes that came out of the NA Media Tour, I thought that Bard wasn't going to really change that much in terms of how it plays, and that's pretty much true. It plays practically the same as Stormblood Bard. You just have a couple extra toys to play with, really, and I guess the biggest fundamental change about Bard is Straight Shot. Straight Shot, no longer a crit buff. Now it's just simply a 200 potency attack, which is slightly more than Heavy Shot, and basically the purpose of Straight Shot is just a precursor to Refulgent Arrow, which you get at level 70. So before level 70, you'll have Straight Shot. Heavy Shot still has to proc Straight Shot before you can use it, or you can proc it with Barrage now, which is a nice little change. Now every time you hit Barrage, you'll automatically get Straight Shot ready, which means you thankfully no longer have to hope and pray to get your Refulgent Arrow within your Raging Strikes to use with Barrage. Now, as soon as you press Barrage, you'll have your Refulgent Arrows to use with Barrage. So, fantastic change. I think that's a really good change to kind of help mitigate what was probably the most frustrating RNG aspect of Bard, which is just chock full of RNG aspects. So, yeah, I think having kind of mitigated that RNG aspect of Bard, I feel like Bard, it feels fine, despite being RNG heavy. And completely reliant on RNG to do a lot of the stuff that bards do, all their songs and stuff. I feel like the fact that we can kind of guarantee that we get our Refulgent Arrow at least in our Raging Strikes to use with Barrage kind of helps make it not feel shitty. There isn't a moment where I ever feel like RNG is just working against me on Bard like I have in the past, like in Stormblood. So that's a good thing. Thumbs up for me. Yeah, good thing. Another thing to kind of talk about Straight Shot and it not getting crit anymore is that, this is something that a lot of bards I feel like have kind of missed with the changes to Bard and Shadowbringers, but we're not relying on crit anymore to proc our songs and stuff, to proc our repertoire. Now it's very simply a 40% chance every time your dot ticks. Both on Stormbite and Caustic Bite, or Wind Bite and Venomous Bite, if you are pre-64? Yeah, pre-64. So yeah, now it's just a flat 40% chance every time your dot ticks. It's no longer reliant on crit, so you don't have to stack crit if you don't want to, although I think crit is still a pretty powerful secondary stat. Although again, it's really early in the expansion, secondary stats, they're kind of all up in the air now. It's really just whatever you feel like putting on right now, because yeah, we haven't had really enough time to kind of figure out which ones are best for each job yet. So personally, I've been stacking crit and direct hit on my ranged DPS. Not sure if that's the best way to go, but that's what I'm doing for now, and it's pretty satisfying to see all those crits and direct hits and direct crits. So yeah, pretty fun. So big change there. I feel like a lot of bards are kind of missing is that we're not relying on crit anymore. It's just a flat 40% chance to grant repertoire whenever our dots tick. So yeah, just kind of keep that in mind for Bard. And as for Bard itself, that's really kind of the bigger changes. We got a couple of new things, I guess. We have Shadow Bite, which is just an AoE version of Sidewinder. If there's ever more than one target in close proximity, you can use Shadow Bite. Does 220 potency as opposed to 260 for one. So if there is just 2 targets and you have your dots up, Shadow Bite is more DPS. Burst Shot finally got an upgraded version of Heavy Shot. Finally, it took us 6 years to get to this point, but we finally have something to replace Heavy Shot. Thank goodness, because I was getting tired of using Heavy Shot. I mean, Burst Shot, it's basically the same thing. It's just it looks slightly cooler and does more damage, obviously. With that, we also get a neat little trait here, and we need to talk about this. Heavy Shot Mastery. Yeah, that's not what I was talking about. Bite Mastery is what I was talking about. Bite Mastery 2, which basically adds the 35% chance to proc Straighter Shot onto your dots and also onto Iron Jaws, which creates kind of an issue with Bard. Is that you can get times when it's kind of like Black Mage back in the day. Black Mage, when we weren't like spamming Fire 4 on Black Mage, when we would occasionally get our Fire Starter proc, but we'd already kind of be mid-cast our Fire proc or a Fire spell, and then we'd end up getting another Fire Starter proc from that Fire spell. It's kind of like this, except in this case, it's not we're getting it while we're mid-cast, it's that we're getting it, but we kind of have to prioritize something else rather than using our Straighter Shot proc. So what I mean by this is that hands down, your first priority is always applying your dots. So that's 2 chances already to proc Straighter Shot proc. Say you throw up your Storm Bite, you get your Straighter Shot proc, and then you throw up Caustic Bite, and then you get another Straighter Shot proc. You just wasted one, right? And then that effect kind of gets compounded whenever you're trying to multi-dot enemies, which you know, in dungeons, large pulls, it's never a bad idea to multi-dot, especially when your tank's kind of working to pull all the enemies and, you know, running to the end to get all the enemies grouped up. But also and especially in the extreme primals we have right now, Titania and in Innocence, both have ad phases that there's 3 ads on the field. So as a bard, your first priority when that ad phase starts is to dot all 3 of them, because why wouldn't you? You know, that's more DPS, that's constantly ticking, that's triple the chances to get repertoire stacks. Obviously that's your first priority, but then that's potentially 6 refulgent arrow procs kind of just on the table that you might be wasting. So yeah, that's kind of sucks. Like, I mean, if you just kind of pretend like, you know, it's always just a good thing, like we don't need to have this Bite Mastery 2 to get our refulgent arrow procs from using our dots or using Iron Jaws. But yeah, it feels really bad when you're wasting your Straighter Shot procs because you have to prioritize dotting everything. But yeah, it kind of sucks. It'd be nice if we kind of got the Ruin 4 treatment, where we could stack our procs. But I don't know. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't know. I feel like that wouldn't happen. Not without getting a nerf to either the chance for it to proc from Bite Mastery 2 or a nerf to Refulgent Arrow's potency altogether. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna get stackable procs for Bard. I don't feel like it's gonna happen, even with the changes coming up on Tuesday. But I don't know, we'll see. It'd be nice to see that, but I feel like if we do see that, it'll be at the cost of something else. But yeah, that's kind of an unfortunate thing happening there. And then we also have Apex Arrow, which delivers a potency of 500 to all enemies in straight line before you. Costs at least 20 soul gauge, but the potency will increase as soul gauge exceeds minimum cost. And we'll get our soul gauge at level 80 as well, which kind of just feels like a tacked on thing. Like essentially what the soul gauge is just a gauge that is active whenever you're singing a song, any of the 3 songs, and it'll go up by 5 every time you get a repertoire stack. So yeah, it's just something that's constantly going up with your repertoire stacks, and you want to use this at max gauge, or at least as close to max gauge. The only times you'd want to use it at not max gauge is if the fight's gonna end, basically. And or if you're like really close, like you're in like the 90, like 85 range, and you're under raging strikes, it might be okay to use it then. I don't know the exact math on that, but for the most part, I just kind of follow the rule, using it at max gauge, which I feel like this should be changed. Honestly, I feel like it'd be better if they just made Apex Arrow like closer to what its max potency actually is, but then give it like a soul gauge cost of 80, kind of like what Ninja has with their Ninki gauge. It's like where everything costs 80, but and you have that like 20 that 20 gauge to sort of to fill up in case you need to do other stuff first, which is true because like again your straighter shot, your dots take priority over using Apex Arrow. So if you're ever in a situation where either one, you're not in range to use Apex Arrow because this has a much shorter range, like it only has a 15 Yalm range as opposed to the rest of your attacks having a 25 Yalm range, and it needs to have that range because it's an AoE attack, I guess. But it has a shorter range, so if you're ever out of range for any reason, for instance, if Titania's in the exact middle and you're assigned to one of the like the southeast or southwest puddle or whatever, you typically can't get your Apex Arrow off without jumping off your puddle. So yeah, she's just barely out of range, or maybe you're on the other side of the bramble patch and she's like in the far corner. You also can't use your Apex Arrow in that situation. Or if you need to apply your dots take priority over using Apex Arrow. So I feel like having it so that it's just a flat, like, I don't know, like 750 potency, whatever max potency is for this, just a little less than that, and then having it cost 80 gauge would be a much better change to this skill, in my opinion. That or making it an ability, but whatever, it's fine. It is what it is. I really like to see that change. I don't think they're going to change Apex Arrow, in my opinion. It's just I don't feel like they feel like it's necessary to change Apex Arrow, even though I feel like having the 80 gauge cost and having that 20 as sort of like a buffer in case you need to do something else or not in range would be really nice. But again, I don't feel like they're going to make that change. And that's kind of it for the gameplay style of Bard.